Good morning and welcome to LifeBridge. If this is your first Sunday visiting with us, download the app. The app is the main connecting point for everything we do. Fill out the connection card in the app. The connection card helps us to get to know you better, and it's a perfect place to volunteer or make a decision. In just a few weeks, we'll be hosting a huge event for teens in middle school and high school.
Get ready for the craziest concert-style youth rally in Downriver. On February 23rd, LifeBridge Student Ministries is hosting the Downriver Youth Shebang, a free event for students from 6th through 12th grade only. Doors open at 6 p.m. where we kick it off with a pre-game indoor skateboard demo with the Unlikely Servants skate crew. Following the demo, we'll jump right into high-energy performances from Michigan-bred artists like pop-punk band Kept on Hold, national touring rock artist Matt Moore, an engaging message from former NFL All-Star running back Brian Pruitt, and then we'll end out the night with rapper J-Man. Oh yeah, we'll be giving away over $100 worth of prizes. If you're a teenager, this is an event you do not want to miss. So come on out and rock with us at LifeBridge Church on February 23rd from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Downriver Youth Shebang. We will see you there.
That's going to be an incredible event. Be sure to check out the app for more information and to get tickets. It's Valentine's Day this Wednesday, and I know that some of you guys out there are Valentine's Day challenged. Today, I want to help a brother out by giving you the top 5 things to remember about Valentine's Day. So listen up, fellas. The Love Doctor is in the house. Number 5. Make a bigger deal about Valentine's Day than you do about Punchki Day. I know. Punchki Day is the day before Valentine's Day and is arguably the single greatest day of the year. But you have to play it cool, my man. Make her feel like she's more important than a Polish pastry. Number 4. Valentine's Day is this Wednesday. It's important that you hear me say that again. It's this Wednesday, not next week, not the week after next, this Wednesday. It's like this. The day after tomorrow is Tuesday. Then the day after that is Valentine's Day. That means you'll sleep 3 times, and when you wake up, it'll be Valentine's Day. Don't miss this. Let me hear you repeat it. It's when? Wednesday. Number 3. If you end up in front of the Valentine's display at a CVS on your way home from work, you done messed up. Remember this, a crappy last-minute teddy bear is a no-go for your mojo. Number 2, if it's pointless, she's gonna love it. Take, for instance, scavenger hunts. I know, dumb, right? They're a lot of work, they won't make the military stronger, and they're definitely not going to help the Lions get to the playoffs. But it's what she wants. Or flower petals that lead to the bedroom. Now, normally she would kill you for making this kind of mess. But this is romance. It doesn't make any sense. Number 1. Try an experimental new technique called non-sexual touch. Apparently, in some remote parts of Indonesia, science has discovered that a man can in fact touch his wife romantically without it leading immediately to sex. Give your lady a back rub, or a foot rub, or even a kiss, and then, this is important, don't have sex with her. Apparently, females take this as an indication that you care more about them than your own gratification. This has been the top 5 things that every man needs to know about Valentine's Day. In just a minute, we'll be wrapping up a 2-part series called His and Hers. Last week, we talked all about how a woman can give a man what he needs. This week, it's all about the ladies. Gentlemen, this is how you can please your woman.
All right, good morning. Just in case you missed last week, we talked about everything that a woman can do to meet her man's needs. And this week, we have half the attendance as we talk about, guys, how you can meet the needs of your woman. Now, I just want to congratulate the men that are here because you had such an easy out this morning. Wasn't it a piece of cake? You'd be like, baby, I think we should stay home. Roads are treacherous. I don't want to risk it. We should just stay home. He could have stayed home. That's probably what a lot of guys did. But he's here to figure out how he can best meet your needs. So we need to give a round of applause for the guys that are here who made it. Such an easy out you had. And the second thing, we prayed about it this morning, and we have decided to open a campus in Florida. So effective immediately, I'm going to be working in Florida, and we'd like to pass the offering buckets for that. No. It's been a fun winter, so you're here. This is fantastic. Today we're talking about how, guys, you can meet the needs of your ladies. And I just want to talk to the guys here for a second, okay? Ladies, you may not like the analogy, but I'm talking to the fellows here. Let me handle this, okay? Guys, it's not very difficult, okay? It's not very difficult. I know it seems complex. It's really, honestly, meeting the needs of your wife, I believe, is kind of like snow plowing your driveway, okay? So when you look at your driveway out there and you see all that snow and you go, oh, how am I going to do it? You know, oh, it looks like a bunch of work and I don't even know if I want to do it, right? You will never get that driveway cleaned off, right? But on the other hand, if you just go out there and you're like, I'm going to get this is a job and it needs done, and you go out there like a man and you clean that driveway off, right? You'll get it done. Let me tell you, your marriage is only as complicated as your driveway. It's not very difficult. If you will put the needs of your spouse ahead of your own, and you will just do the work. Come on, guys, repeat that with me. Do the work. That was a resounding echo of authority, right? If you will just do the work, if you will put her needs ahead of your needs, you will find that you are doing everything that God has called you to do. In fact, this is where we started last week. Every relationship, it just comes down to this. This is as complicated as marriage gets. Just ask yourself the question, how can I please my spouse? Whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, the answer you have to do is you have to figure out for yourself personally. Don't try to control them. Don't try to fix them. Don't try to manipulate them. The more you focus on them, the farther you will drive your relationship apart. That's true. The more you focus on them and how they can change the behavior and what you can do to make them change their behavior, the farther your relationship will get apart. But if you focus on yourself, you just ask yourself that question over and over and over again, how can I please my spouse? How can I meet the needs of my spouse? You will find that you are everything that God called you to be in the marriage, and that you will have the happiest possible marriage. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 33. This is where we kind of started off last week. I want to reiterate this again. It talks about the difference between how a man loves a woman and how a woman loves a man. The needs of a man are different than the needs of a woman. This is what it says. However, each of you also must love his wife as he loves, what? Himself, right? And I can tell you this. Some guys, right? We really like ourselves, right? In fact, we like ourselves. In fact, we're in love with ourselves, right? That's all you just got to treat your wife like it's yourself, because I got news for you. It is. And it says, and the wife must respect her husband. So last week we talked about respect. Today we're going to talk about what it is that a woman needs. Now, I've done a message like this before, and what I've just turned to my wife and I said, hey, baby, what is it that you need, right? That was dangerous. I had to practice what I preach. I'm a big believer in doing that, and so that was a very complicated year for me. So instead, what I did is I went to our staff. I went to the ladies, and I said, ladies, what do you want from your husbands? Forget about what my wife wants. So anyway, I went to the staff this past week, and I said, hey, what are the things that you are looking for now? So what today's message is I've taken what they've said, I've boiled it down, and what I found is that's exactly everything that they're wanting. It's crazy idea. Everything that they want from their spouse is exactly what God teaches men to be to their wives. Huge surprise, right? Like God's got this whole thing figured out, okay? So the number one thing, what a woman needs, right? This is the first thing that was mentioned in staff meeting. It just popped out, right? And I thought that's good. What a woman needs, number one, to be treated like a girlfriend. That was the first thing that popped out, and I said, man, that sums a lot of stuff up right there. Treated like a girlfriend. Now, guys, I know you know how to do this, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be married, right? That's how you landed the bird, right? That's how you landed this lady, is because you know how to treat a girl like a girlfriend. And so you brought her in, you used your lure or your trap, and you lured her in. You gave her the impression that you were romantic, right? Sexy, alluring. There was something that you did. It was a classic bait and switch, but you did it. And then you got married, and some of you immediately stopped as soon as you got married. But then some of you continued that out, and you were really that way for a couple of years, and then you had kids, and for some of you who've been married a while, you're just yeah, that's stupid. Don't treat your wife like a girlfriend. That's just weird. Now, here's why I think that is. I think that's because too many times, this is just on the no-fly list, do not do this. Because too many times when we're being husbands, we look at our wives and we use the role models that we have in our heads. And one of the role models that we have in our heads usually is our dad, right? Or that male figure in your life. I want to just tell you, I want to give you permission. Your dad might have been a great example for a lot of things. Maybe he was a hard-working man, right? Maybe he knew how to get things done. Maybe he was there for you. Maybe there's something that you can look at and say, man, my dad was great at that. I can say almost completely across the board, do not use your dad as an example of the kind of husband that your wife needs, okay? Because that's what we do. She's over here wanting to be treated like a girlfriend. You're like, well, that's kind of dumb. I never saw Dad do that. Just stick with me. But your dad probably this happened, slept in bed at night, this guy that you're looking at as a role model, slept in bed at night, while his wife, your mom, stood over the top of him with a pillow in her hands and contemplated homicide, right? So don't use your dads as an example. Don't think, well, I don't need to. That's not what a man does. We could come up with this definition that this is what men do and this is what men don't do. And just listen, don't use your father as an example. Throw that completely out the window and just look at your wife for who she is and say, hey, what does she need? Here's the example I want you to use. Instead of your dad or that male role model or other men in society, I want you to think of 1 Peter 3:7. 1 Peter 3:7 is the example that you are supposed to use. 1 Peter 3:7 goes like this. Husbands, in the same way, be considerate as you live with your wives. What's the root word for considerate? To consider, right? This Greek word isn't complicated. You need to think about or acknowledge the needs of your wife, right? So that's what you're supposed to do. Not what other men are doing, not what your dad did. You're supposed to ask the question, what does she want from me? And she wants to be treated like your girlfriend. Here's what he says next. And treat them with respect as the weaker partner. I know we're going to get emails. That's in the Bible. That's not for me. Weaker partner. Now listen, when Paul says that, I think a lot of times we always try to read words in that aren't in there. He doesn't say inferior, right? He says weaker. Now, we look at that and we go, well, what in the world does that mean? Let me tell you. Men and women are different. Not lesser, not non-equal. They are equal, right? But they are different. In our culture, we try to pretend like men and women are the same. And I want you to know, the Bible, right out of the gate, God, right out of the gate says, here's man and here's woman, and I have created them very, very different. And it's not just the hardware that they have on their body, okay? It's everything about them is different. Let me talk about weaker and stronger. This is kind of how God designed a man, right? This has a purpose. This has a design. This has a use, right? This is important. This is strong. This is a bowling ball that was left here. This isn't even a big one, right? So we've got this ball, and this is what a man is. You know what I can do with a bowling ball? I can do this. It's going to roll off. Don't let it hit you. Okay. That's yours if you want it. No, actually, don't take it because I need it for second service. This is at least when we bought it was like a $5,000 camera, not us, but whoever gave this to us. But anyway, this camera is what we use on a weekly basis. This camera is very delicate. You know what I can't do with this camera? I can't drop it on the ground. Watch what happens when I drop this on the ground. Our video guys just to change their diaper a little bit. Okay. Just because something is more delicate, something is more gentle, doesn't mean it doesn't have value. In fact, you'll find that the most precious things in this world, the things that have the most value, are the things that are delicate and are breakable. When Paul says, hey, guys, when you live with your wife, don't treat her like a bowling ball, right? In fact, I think it's really important. We get into this mindset where our wife actually does a lot of really great things. And she makes things run in the home. And because of that, we have a tendency to treat her like a pack mule, okay? So I think it's really important today that you guys just say this with me, okay? Guys, say this with me. My wife is not a pack mule. That's good. That's good. She's not a pack mule. She is your what? Girlfriend. That's what she is. She is your girlfriend. And so Paul's saying, guys, listen, treat her as delicate. Treat her like you would take care of a camera that you spend a lot of money on. Take care of her take extra care and think about what it is that she needs. And you got to admit, like we do this constantly. I treat men differently than I do women, right? I'll give you an example. John Perfetti is our executive pastor here at the church. He's 6'8", 300 pounds. He's a man. He's 50-something, right? I treat John very differently than I would my wife. If I come to church and I see John wearing an ugly shirt, what do I say to John? I point at his shirt and I go, that is ugly. That is an ugly shirt. And he'll say, well, it was $3. And I'll be like, it's still ugly. It's an ugly shirt. That looks like some wallpaper in my grandma's house, right? That's an ugly shirt. That's what. If my wife comes down in a shirt I've never seen before and I think it's ugly, what do I say? I say, nothing. Nothing, right? Not because I think it's a pretty shirt, because I treat her very differently than I would ever. Guys, you cannot treat your wife like just anybody. You treat her like your girlfriend. There you go. I think you guys got it. Now, I just want to identify with you guys for a second. Like, this gets so difficult. Remember how easy it was when you were dating? Because everything was new. It gets way more difficult to treat her like your girlfriend the older you get. And so that's why we stop. And I just want to, ladies, give him the benefit of the doubt. He stops because it just gets really difficult, right? When I was dating Bethany, we hadn't even kissed yet. I think we maybe held hands, but that was like it. We had just started dating. And the rain was coming down in Missouri, and I was sitting in my dorm room at the college we both went to. I was sitting in my dorm room, and the rain was coming down. It was a beautiful, warm rain, and I was like, I called her up. You want to go for a walk in the rain? She was like, yeah. So I go over to her dorm, and before we went out, she was like, are you sure? Should we just go out in the rain? I'm like, yeah, come on, baby. Do you trust me? Right? So we went for a walk in the rain, and it was this moment. It was memorable. It was great. Her hair was wet, and her mascara was running, right? And we held hands, and I looked at her, and I told her how so pretty she looked in the rain, and it was so romantic. And we even tell that story to our kids about how romantic it was. We've been married for 21 years. What do you think she does now if I ask her to go for a walk in the rain? Are you crazy? It's going to get us all wet, and I'm going to have to do all that laundry. Are you going to do the laundry? And you really have to work at it. It gets more difficult. And you can't just stop because it gets more difficult, right? You have to find new ways. I'm not talking about making like exponential ways. I'm just talking about new ways. And I'll tell you what, she'll grade you A for effort, won't you, ladies? You'll give him an A for if he just tries, if he does something, do anything. I'll give you an example. Last year, I was trying to spice things up a little bit. Normally, what we do at Christmas time is we just get each other what's on our list, right? She'll be like, I want a vacuum, I want this, and I want that. Get me those things. And I'll be like, okay, baby, I'll surprise you. So I have the pressure of going and picking out those things and making sure I get everything on the list, right? And then I give it to her for Christmas, and she goes, oh, thanks. It's a great system. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to surprise her. I'm going to get something that she didn't ask for. So I know my wife loves to go to musicals, right? I know she's all about musicals, and she's all about plays and stuff that I just really hate. But anyway, she's all about that. So last year, and so I went to see, what was happening, Fox Theater, Detroit Opera House, and like the best thing I could find was The Lion King, right? So I'm like, you know what? She's never told me she wants to go to The Lion King, but I think she'll think that's cool. So I went and did this. She got the tickets. She was like, oh, that's great. And even when she got the tickets on Christmas, I could tell she wasn't like super excited about it. And then we went to it, and it was a fun night, right? We dressed up. We went to the Detroit Opera House. It was different and far more expensive than just going to a movie theater. We go to this event, and it was super fun. And The Lion King is one of the dumbest things you can watch. The musical is so stupid. It is. She even thought so. Like, after it was over, I was like, well, what'd you think? She was like, this, okay, yeah, it's great. Watch the movie. So much better. James Earl Jones' voice is nowhere in the musical, right? Anyway, so super stupid. But anyway, we go to it, and I'll tell you what, even though I don't think she even really enjoyed it, she loved the fact that there was something different and there was a little bit of a switch up in it. I tell you, she will try, if you just try something new, treat her like a girlfriend, think about what she needs. Do not use your father as an example. Okay, number two. The second thing a woman needs, treat her like a girlfriend. Number two is to be valued. One of the most important things, again, I'm talking to guys, so I want you to get on the same page. One of the most important things about your vehicle is a basic thing, right? If your truck or car runs on gas, it's really important that you put what in it? Gas. And if it doesn't run on diesel, it's really important that you don't put what? Diesel in it, right? If it runs on diesel, don't put diesel. If it runs on diesel, right? You got the right fuel that runs the machine, and you put the right thing in there, okay? Your wife runs on something, okay? Your wife runs on the value that you give her. Now listen, not everybody will understand this, or everybody will admit it, but it tells us in the very beginning why God created woman. It says this, Genesis chapter 2, verse 18. Genesis 2:18. The Lord God said, "It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him." So he looked at man and all the stuff that he had created, and he said, it's not good enough. I am going to make a helper, a helpmate. I am going to make a part that is going to be there to help. Now listen, sometimes, especially in our culture, we do something I think that's super sinful. We think that like there's like this primary role and this helper role, and the helper role isn't as good as the primary role, and that's something that we've done to that. Okay, when God made it, He was just like, okay, here's this part, and it's going to function like this, and this support role is going to function like this, and neither one of them's better, right? That's what we do. Sinful. We go, oh yeah, the person that's the head, the person that's the leader, the primary person isn't as important as the support person. And that's sinful, both from a men's perspective and a woman's perspective. That's not what God intended it to be. In fact, this is what He says. Next verse, Genesis 2:23. This is how He designed these roles. The man said, "This is now bone of my bone, and flesh of my flesh. She'd be called woman, for she was taken out of man." Listen, a wife is a part of the man. The two are one. You can't decide who's more important because it's all the same thing. And it doesn't work without the other part. So this thing that God said, I want a woman to be in this support role, I want this woman to help this man, that is the fuel that she runs on. That's what God put her on this earth to do. She is looking to fulfill that role, and she may not even know it. She may not even know that that's what drives her and is the thing that she craves. And so here's what your wife does. She spends her hours and her days trying to fulfill and meet needs that you have. She may not even realize she's doing this, right? You got married, and maybe she's like super smart with like paying bills and budgets and stuff like that. So she jumped in to be a hero in this moment for the relationship. She is adding the piece of the puzzle that she does, and she's jumping in there and paying bills and doing all kinds of things, and you look at it and you go, oh, that's great, because you love that. In fact, there's some men in here that don't even know how to pay your bills or manage the budget at all because she jumped in and did that. Or maybe she's a different kind of woman. Maybe she jumped in and she was like all about being a homemaker. She's like, I'm going to make this house beautiful and I'm going to make this house pretty and I'm going to take care of the home, right? And we looked at it and go, oh, that's great. I needed to delegate that responsibility anyway, right? And so we just kind of hand that off. So she jumps in and she pours her life into this thing. And we look at it and we just kind of check that box. We're like, okay, well, good. I don't have to do it. And in fact, a lot of times the things that some women do, we don't even care about. But if it was gone, we'd miss it. Before I got married, do you know how often I changed my bed sheets? Washed them, cleaned them, put them back on? Well, I was in college. I remember I did it once per semester. Now listen, I'm not gross, right? Halfway through the semester, I would take the sheets off the bed, intending to wash them, and then just finish off the semester on the mattress. So I'm not gross, okay? It wasn't a big priority to me, washing the bed sheets. I don't know how I got married. Anyway, and then when we get married, my wife, she washes the bed sheets, get this, every 4 or 5 days. Right? And she'll get in the bed and it's all clean and everything, and I've grown to really love that, right? And if my wife were gone for a month all of a sudden, I would miss that. I wouldn't do it myself, but I would miss it greatly, right? Whatever it is that your wife's doing, she has jumped in there and she is being your helper. She is being your helpmate. She's trying to make you and her work. She is doing everything she can. You don't acknowledge that, then you're not giving her the fuel that she needs to run on. If you're not recognizing the places where she completes you, if you're not recognizing that in her, then you are missing it. And the very thing that she runs on, the very thing that drives her, the very thing that she wants in this life, you are withholding from her, you are keeping from her, and all she wants to do is be recognized and have you go, thank you. Thank you. I value you so much. You are us. Without you, this wouldn't work. So number 2, she needs to be. She doesn't want to be. She needs to be valued. Number 3, she needs selflessness. I know, guys, you need selflessness from her too, but I'm telling you, she needs this more than you can imagine. She needs you to not think about what you got going on. She needs you to think about what she's got going on, about what's happening in the family. She needs you to put her ahead of yourself. Now, I think that everybody is selfish. I think men and women, I think we get to be selfish people. But sometimes men kind of dominate in this area. Just to be honest. We get thinking about ourselves and we have these egos that are way bigger than we acknowledge. And we're trying to figure out how we're going to get those egos taken care of, like how we can get somebody to stroke those egos, how we can get somebody to acknowledge who we are. And if you selfishly look to your wife and go, she's got to meet that need for me. Or maybe you're looking to meet that need. Maybe it's in your business, maybe it's in your work, maybe it's in the world. You're looking to get all that taken care of. Even sometimes your kids are just another opportunity for you to gather worshipers, right? To your awesomeness, right? Or at least that's what you think. And you try to get that to happen, or you are a complete failure in making that happen. And your kids don't think you're great at all, right? And your wife isn't really that keen on you, and people aren't around you. And so what we do is we become more focused on ourselves. So whether it's going good or it's going bad, we get so focused on ourselves. I tell you, nothing dries up or takes away from your relationship and your marriage quicker than becoming selfish. And so I don't think it's a surprise that Paul tells us that the one thing we can do as husbands is we can look to our wives and we can treat her as more valuable than ourselves. Here's what he says, Ephesians chapter 5. Husbands, love your wives. How? You can define love in a bunch of different ways. Paul's like, no, I'm talking to guys. Let's not get confused. Let me be really straightforward, okay? Love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy. He uses the example of nothing less than the crucifixion of Jesus Christ to describe how much and how selfless a man should be to his wife. What did Jesus do? Jesus didn't have to do any of that. But he gave up his everything for the church. He says, husbands are to love their wives in this way, to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church without stain or wrinkle or any other blemishes, but holy and blameless. There wasn't anything that Jesus did not hold back as he gave up his life for the church. And husband, that's your only job. Your job isn't to submit to your wife. Your job isn't just to make her feel valued, right? Your job isn't that small. Your job's big. You have to give it all up. He continues on, next verse. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. Guys, I can't drive this home enough. The more you focus on yourself, the more you are not acknowledging part of yourself. Being good to your wife is just being good to yourself because she is you. That's why divorce is so devastating. That's why it says in the book of Malachi that God hates divorce. I know some of you have experienced that, and it was an inevitable conclusion, and it couldn't have gone any other way. You've experienced divorce, and you know how devastating that is. But God tells us that's why I hate divorce. He allows it in some scenarios, but he says, but I don't like it because it is dividing something that is one. Anybody that goes through a divorce knows it's just like having one of their limbs cut off because it is somebody that is one together, all apart, being split into. The next verse. It says, he who loves his wife is just loving himself. Right? So, men, because I'm talking to men, I just want you to know, anytime that you choose to not love your wife or to meet her needs, you are doing something stupid. Okay? Just remember that. You're a moron. Next verse. After all, no one ever hated their own body, but they feed and care for their body just as Christ does the church, for we are members of his body. Now he concludes with this, a verse that we read in the book of Genesis. He quotes the Old Testament. He says, for this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. Guys, you have to put her needs, and you have to lay everything down to do it. Now again, just because I'm talking to the men, I want you to know that can be frustrating at times. It can be frustrating because she's not like you, right? You figured that out, right? She's not like you. Her needs are different than your needs, and you've kind of logically planned it out, and you've gone, yeah, but some of the things she needs are kind of dumb. Nobody cares. It doesn't matter whether they're dumb to you or not. Meet the need, right? Care for her. Be considerate of what she wants because it's what she wants, and she is a part of you. Look to her first. I want to tell you, over the years, my wife has given me more value than I could possibly know. Some people are like, oh, you guys seem to have a great marriage and great family. And I'm like, yeah, she's done a great job, right? She has done that because she has added that value in the relationship. And I want to tell you, just over the years, man, a lot of people say that I'm pretty good at communicating. Like, I think that's why some people still stick around. We're like, yeah, you're an all right preacher, right? And I want to tell you, that is primarily because of my wife. When I was a young preacher, I would get up and I would preach my guts out. You know, you put your heart into this thing and you get out and you deliver it. And then you get in the car and the first thing every man does or should do is turn to his wife and go, how was that? My wife was perfect. She could have very easily, every single time, crushed me. Because some of my sermons early on were so terrible. And I don't know if you guys have been around a lot, every once in a while, I say kind of stupid things. I know it's hard to imagine, but sometimes I'm not always planning on saying something, and then I say it anyway, and it ends up kind of bad. So anyway, there's a lot of opportunities for her to crush me, but she also didn't do this other thing. She also didn't do this other thing where she pretended like I was fantastic, right? She could have done that. I see that happen to a lot of young preachers too. Get in the car. How was it, honey? You're the best preacher ever. You're fantastic. Everything you say is from God's mouth, right? She didn't do that either. She was just perfect. She has raised my kids. And I got to tell you, sometimes I take credit for my kids, right? I'm looking at my kids and I'm like, man, my kids are amazing. And then I remember, oh yeah, no, I'm kind of a jerk. So I probably can't take credit for that. And I look at my kids and I'm like, that's her. And I look at so many parts of my life and I look at it and go, that is all because of her. Guys, listen. If you look at your life, if you look at who you are, what's happened in your life, and you're taking somehow the credit for that, you're really being dumb. Right? She is making you. You need to look into that and you need to put her above everything. She is building you into the man that you are, or the man that you could become if you would acknowledge what God has intended her to be. So guys, treat her like a girlfriend, right? That's all she wants. Treat her like a girlfriend. Don't be selfish. Show her the value she means in your life. Let me pray. God, I pray that every man in here, God, even the ones that are doing good, God, that they would do better. That they would be able to value their wives, that they'd be able to honor their wives, they would be able to see who she is. God, I pray for the marriages in this room. I pray that you would bring restoration, bring healing. God, if there's a separation that has taken place, if the two are growing farther and farther apart, God, I pray by the power of your Spirit, by your strength, I pray that you would come in and that you would renew that relationship. You would begin to draw them closer together as they give their lives to you and surrender, God, to what you teach and what you're leading them to do. I pray that they would grow closer and that the marriages, even if the marriages that are here today sometimes feel more painful than they are helpful, God, I pray that you would bring restoration even to those marriages. People would be able to look at their relationship. Maybe soon, maybe a couple of years down the road, they'd be able to look at even those relationships